When Lily said, "You're just the widow, Margaret, maybe just stay quiet for now," I realized I was no longer seen as a part of this family. It's a strange feeling being ignored by the very people you've loved and built everything for. My name is Margaret Callahan, and at 68 years old, I've lived a life full of both joy and sacrifice. But what happened that night at Ethan's house, well, that was something else. Let me take you back. It was a simple dinner, or at least that's what I thought it would be. Ethan, my son, invited me over to discuss some estate matters, words I didn't think much about at first. After all, my late husband William and I had spent decades building our family's fortune brick by brick. We weren't born into money, but we made sure we worked hard enough to have a legacy. I co-signed loans for Ethan's home. I managed every detail of the estate. I put in the hours, the sacrifices, skipping vacations, eating canned soup for lunch, just to make sure there would be something for our children. But none of that seemed to matter in that moment. When I walked into Ethan's house, the coldness hit me right away. There was no greeting, no warmth. Ethan was already pouring wine, playing the gracious host, while his wife Lily strutted around with that fake smile I've come to know all too well. The room didn't even pause to acknowledge me. In fact, Ethan barely looked up. Instead, he dove straight into the estate matters, and that's when I realized something was different. It wasn't just about money, it was about power. And somehow I had been reduced to just the widow. No recognition of the sacrifices I made, no acknowledgement of my role in this family. It was as if all those years of hard work didn't mean a thing. When Lily said, "You're just the widow, Margaret, maybe just stay quiet for now," I felt my heart drop. The weight of that moment hit me like a slap in the face. But I didn't say a word. I stood up, walked out, and left, without looking back. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of seeing me upset. But trust me, while I walked away in silence, I was already planning my next move. You don't build a life like I did, only to let it be taken away by people who think they can push you aside. This wasn't over. I won't lie, it hurt. Leaving that dinner without a word, walking out as if I had nothing left to say, but really, I was broken inside. Ethan, my own son, was hosting, and it was supposed to be a family evening, a moment to talk to, reconnect, and maybe even share a laugh or two. But instead, it became the night I realized just how little they valued me. Ethan's house was exactly as I remembered it, a big, glassy, modern home, far more luxurious than the little house William and I had worked for, fought for. The kind of home Ethan had always dreamed of while he was young, and one that William and I had helped make a reality. I co-signed the loan for him, didn't I? I did everything in my power to ensure he had the best, just like I had done for all of them, my children, my family. But that evening, none of it mattered. When I walked into the living room, there they were. Ethan standing by the wine glasses, already acting like the perfect host. I couldn't miss the gleam of authority in his eyes, the way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. He was all business, and that was a warning sign I had ignored for far too long. Lily, his wife, was busy moving around the kitchen, clicking her heels on the floor with every step she took. It was the kind of movement she thought was graceful, but I saw right through it. It was all a show. They all wanted something, and none of it had anything to do with me. I wasn't even acknowledged at first. Ethan kept talking about estate matters, mentioning them like they were just another item on a to-do list. I had raised this man. I helped him grow. And here he was speaking as if I was some outsider. It hit me hard, but I tried to stay composed. After all, I had been the one who taught him to be strong in the face of adversity, to keep going no matter how tough things got. But it wasn't just the business talk, it was the tone. The way he subtly downplayed my role. He never asked my opinion, never once turned to me to share my thoughts, even though I was the one who had managed the estate and co-signed his loan. It was like he saw me as nothing more than a shadow in the corner, someone who couldn't possibly have a voice, in decisions that frankly I had a hand in building. And then there was Lily. If I'm being honest, I've never trusted her. There was always something about her I couldn't put my finger on, but tonight it was crystal clear. She stood there, her arms crossed, her eyes glued to her phone, completely disinterested in me and what was happening around the table. When Ethan started talking about simplifying things, I already knew what he meant. He was trying to take over. Slowly but surely, I was being pushed out like I wasn't even a part of this family anymore. The moment she spoke, I knew it was the final nail in the coffin. Lily casually said, "You're just the widow Margaret. Maybe just stay quiet for now." Just like that, as if she were talking about someone insignificant. The words stung deeper than anything I could have imagined. I had always been there for them every step of the way. Every milestone, every failure, every moment of success, I had been there. But to them, I was just the widow, the outsider. I could feel the weight of those words sinking into my bones. It wasn't just Lily, it was Ethan too. His eyes flicked to Lily when she spoke, as if he agreed with her, as if he too saw me as just a relic of the past, someone who no longer had a place in the present or the future. The family that I had spent decades building was turning on me, and all I could do was sit there trying to keep my emotions in check. The silence in the room was suffocating, and yet it spoke volumes. It was as if I were invisible to them, like I didn't matter anymore. I set my fork down slowly, careful not to make a sound. I had to stay calm. My hands trembled beneath the table, but I didn't want them to see that. I didn't want them to think I was weak. No, I wasn't weak. What they didn't know was that the quiet I was holding on to wasn't out of submission, it was out of strength. The strength to walk away, to leave the room without creating a scene, without letting them see how deeply their words had cut me. I was beyond that. This was a battle I had already won in my mind long before I stepped foot in this house. I stood up. I didn't need to explain myself, didn't need to say a word. I simply walked out, leaving the blueberry pie I had baked on the counter. It was the pie William had always loved, his favorite, and I had hoped that maybe, just maybe, it would soften the mood. But it didn't. The room didn't care. They didn't care. As I walked out, I heard them laughing behind me. But I didn't let that bother me. Let them laugh. What they didn't know was that this was just the beginning. I wasn't done yet. In fact, I was only getting started. I was no longer just the widow. I was more than that. I had been there through it all, and I wasn't going to be forgotten just like that. I got into my car and locked the door, taking a deep breath. For the first time in years, the silence around me felt like peace. Not loneliness, peace. And that peace, that sense of calm, was exactly what I needed to make my next move. I couldn't sleep that night. The laughter from the dinner still echoed in my ears, but it was no longer painful. Instead, it felt like a distant sound, something that belonged to a world I was no longer a part of. I had walked out of Ethan's house, with the weight of their disregard pressing down on me, but I was more determined than ever to show them that I wasn't just the widow they thought I was. I was Margaret Callahan, and I had a history of surviving storms, even the ones that came from within my own family. The house felt eerily quiet as I moved through the hall. The lights were dim, and William's old recliner, still sitting where he left it, was a reminder of how different everything was now that he was gone. I missed him every day, even more so now in the wake of the dinner. William was always the steady one, the one who kept everything together. We had built our lives side by side, brick by brick, through hard work and sacrifice. But that evening I couldn't help but wonder, was I just holding on to the past? I needed a distraction. My thoughts were swirling, and I needed something to ground me. I walked into the study, my eyes falling on the cabinet that we'd always kept locked, the one that held our important documents, our will's tax records, and other paperwork. It was the no-go drawer, the place we kept things we didn't want the kids to see. It had been years since I opened it, and I hadn't thought about it much, especially after William's passing. But something inside me told me to open it, to check if there was something, anything I had missed. My fingers trembled as I pulled open the drawer. The smell of old paper and ink filled the air as I sifted through the documents, old receipts, insurance papers, birth certificates, and then I found it. A thick white envelope wedged in the back of the drawer, It was labeled with one word in William's unmistakable handwriting, Eleanor. I froze for a moment, unsure of what to do. William never wrote letters. He showed love by fixing the roof, by paying the bills on time, by doing the things that kept our lives running smoothly. Words were not his strong suit. But this envelope, this letter was something different. It was as if he knew even before his illness took him that things were going to change. And change they had. I slowly opened the envelope, the paper crinkling in my hands. Inside was a single page of notebook paper with more words than I had ever seen him write at once. I read it carefully, my heart pounding in my chest as the truth began to unfold. If you're reading this, something's already gone wrong. I wanted to tell you sooner, but I knew if I did, you'd try to fix it instead of protect yourself. The boys, they're not bad, but they're selfish. And Candace, she's worse. I saw it happening the moment I got sick. I made some changes. Everything is in your name now. The house, the accounts, the lake property. You have full authority power of attorney. They don't know. Don't feel bad for using it. Don't let them shame you into silence. And if they ever try to take what's yours, burn it all down. I could hardly breathe. My eyes scanned the words again, and I let them sink in. William had seen it coming. He had seen Ethan's selfishness, Candace's manipulative ways, and he had made sure to protect me. He knew that once he was gone, they would try to take advantage of me, that they would try to push me out. But what he didn't know was that I had already made up my mind. I wasn't going to let them do it, not without a fight. As I sat there holding the letter, the reality of what I had just read began to settle in. William had anticipated everything. He had planned for it. And now it was my turn to act. The legal documents were next. I carefully sifted through the papers William had tucked away. There were contracts, notarized forms, and legal seals. I could hardly believe my eyes. William had made changes to everything, the house, the accounts, the lake property. He had transferred everything into my name. It wasn't just a letter of intent. It was all legal and binding. William had made sure of that. I pulled out the papers one by one, reading each one carefully. My hands were cold, but my heart was steady. There were power of attorney clauses, restructuring terms, and ownership transfers, all outlined, clearly signed by both William and our lawyer, David. They were real. They were official. And most importantly, they were mine. William had done this quietly in the background while I had been focused on caring for him, making sure he was comfortable. He had been thinking ahead, knowing that once he was gone, the family would turn on me. He was right. The words from Ethan and Lily still echoed in my mind. You're just the widow, Margaret. But William had made sure that wouldn't matter. He had given me everything I needed to protect what we had built, and now it was my turn to step into the role he had prepared for me. I didn't know what the next steps would be, but I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to let them take what was mine. I wasn't going to sit quietly. I had the power now, and I would use it to protect everything William and I had worked for. They wouldn't see it coming. The world felt different now, sharper, clearer. I didn't need to cry over what had been said at that dinner. I didn't need to beg for their approval. I had the law on my side, and more importantly, I had the courage to stand up for myself. I was Margaret Callahan, and no one was going to push me aside. The house was still and quiet, but my mind was anything but. I couldn't sit idle any longer, not after what I had read in William's letter. He had given me full control, and now it was time for me to act. I walked to the phone, my fingers steady, as I dialed the number I knew by heart, David, our lawyer. He had been with us for decades, handling everything from the family trust to property investments. He knew the ins and outs of William's affairs like no one else. But this time the conversation would be different. David, I said when he picked up, trying to keep my voice calm despite the surge of adrenaline in my veins. It's Margaret. I need to activate the estate plan. There was a brief pause before David replied, his voice cautious. Margaret, are you sure this is a big decision? I'm sure, I replied, my tone firm. I found the documents. William's plan is clear. It's time. Another pause. I could hear him shuffling papers in the background, no doubt, pulling up William's files. Then finally he spoke again. All right, I'll come by tomorrow morning. We'll get everything in motion. The weight of his words settled in. Tomorrow morning. It was happening. I was stepping into a role that William had prepared me for, whether I was ready or not. I wasn't going to be the woman they thought I was, the widow, sitting quietly in the corner, letting the family take what was hers. I had the power now, and I was going to use it. That night, sleep eluded me. I couldn't stop thinking about everything I had to do. The next day, the moment David arrived, we would begin. The legal documents were all in order. The house, the accounts, the lake property, everything William and I had worked for was now in my name. It was time to take control, to stop waiting for the family's approval, and to ensure that no one could touch what belonged to me. The next morning, as promised, David showed up. He walked into the living room carrying his briefcase, his worn leather folder, a symbol of the countless meetings he and William had had over the years. But today, the contents of that folder were about to shift the power balance in this family. William had always made sure that everything was in order, that there would be no confusion once he was gone. Now it was my turn to make sure that his wishes were followed to the letter. We'll go through everything carefully, David said, settling into a chair across from me. I nodded, feeling a quiet strength settle over me. This was no longer just about protecting what we had built. It was about standing up for myself, for the life I had earned. David opened the folder and began going over each document one by one. The trust had been dissolved. William had taken that step months before he passed away, fearing that the family would try to manipulate it once he was gone. The ownership of every asset, every property was now legally mine. He had thought of everything. I was in control, and nothing could take that away from me. David made the necessary calls to the estate manager, confirming that all instructions would now come from me. He then asked, "Do you want to notify them now or wait?" I thought about it for a moment, the image of my family at that dinner flashing in my mind. Ethan so sure of himself. Lily so cold and dismissive. They thought they could just walk over me, that I would fold. But I wasn't going to let them have that satisfaction. Let them feel it, I said, finally my voice steady. Let them realize what's happening. Let them see how quickly everything can slip away from them. David gave a small nod of approval, a look of respect in his eyes. All right, Margaret, we'll let it hit them all at once. I didn't need to say more. I had made my decision, and now I was following through. As David finalized the legal documents, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. For so long I had been invisible to them, just the widow in the background. But now I was the one who held the power. I wasn't weak, I wasn't afraid, and I wasn't going to let them take what was rightfully mine. The day dragged on as David worked through the final steps, making sure every piece of the plan was in place. When he left, he assured me that everything would be official by the end of the day. I had control now. The family couldn't touch anything without my permission. The next morning when I woke up, I knew things were different. The silence in the house felt heavier, as though the walls themselves were waiting for what was coming next. It wasn't long before the first signs of change appeared. Ethan called, his voice tinged with irritation, asking if I knew why the cabin account had been locked. I didn't answer. Let him figure it out for himself. By mid-morning, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Lily, her message sharp and demanding. She wanted to know why I hadn't responded to Ethan's question. I didn't respond to that either. The family was starting to realize the truth. They were cut off. They had no access to what they had thought was theirs, and they didn't know how much worse it would get. As the day wore on, the calls and messages started to pile up. Trevor texted asking if something had happened to the trust. Blake, too, sent messages asking about the accounts, but I stayed silent. I wasn't going to engage. I wasn't going to explain myself. They had made their choices, and now they would have to deal with the consequences. By the time the sun set, I knew the truth had started to sink in. The accounts were frozen, their access revoked. They had no idea what had just happened. And I, Margaret Callahan, was the one who had made it happen. This was just the beginning. I wasn't done yet. But one thing was clear, I had control now, and I was ready to fight for what was mine. The tension had been building all day, and by the time I walked into Ethan's house, I could feel it in the air. I wasn't just walking into their home, I was walking into the lion's den. The family had no idea what was about to hit them. Ethan had been sending texts all morning, asking questions about the accounts about the property. But I was done answering his questions. It was time for him to hear the truth that I had control, and there was nothing he could do about it. I didn't say a word as I stepped into the living room. Ethan and Lily were sitting together on the couch, their expressions tight, like they knew something was off but couldn't quite figure out what. Trevor was leaning against the wall, watching me carefully, his eyes flicking between me and the door. The scene was set the perfect stage for what was about to unfold. I walked to the coffee table and placed the folder in front of them. There was a brief moment of silence before I opened it slowly, letting the papers fall in front of them one by one. "This," I said, my voice calm but unyielding, "is the new estate plan." I slid the first document across the table. "Everything is in my name now, every property, every account, every asset." William made sure of it before he passed. "And as of this morning, all decisions regarding the estate will come through me." At first there was no reaction. Ethan's brow furrowed, and Lily, ever the actress, tried to hide the shock behind a smile. They thought I was bluffing. They thought this was some sort of power play, a widow trying to get attention. But as I continued to lay the papers in front of them, their expressions began to change. Blake was the first to speak, though his voice was dripping with disbelief. "You can't just move money around like this," he scoffed. "There's a trust board. You're not even supposed to be able to do this." I held up a hand, stopping him mid-sentence. "There is no trust board," I said, my voice steady, unwavering. "William dissolved it months ago. He didn't trust the family to honor his wishes, especially not after seeing how you all were acting. You didn't read the fine print, Blake. William took action to protect me, to protect everything we built." The room went silent. Ethan's eyes widened, the arrogance fading from his face. Lily's fake smile was gone, now replaced by a nervous tension. Trevor, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. "This can't be real. This isn't what we agreed on." "Agreed," I repeated. "You think I agreed to this?" I gestured to the papers on the table. "You think I wanted to be ignored, dismissed, treated like I don't matter. I've been here every step of the way, just like William. But none of you seem to understand that. You think you can walk all over me, take everything I helped build just because I'm a widow. Well, that stops now." The shock in their faces was almost satisfying, but I didn't have time to bask in it. There was more to do, more I had to expose. "You didn't just want control of the estate, though, did you?" I continued, my gaze shifting to Ethan. "You've been taking what wasn't yours for a long time. I know about the loans, Ethan. The loans you took out using William's business credit line, thinking you could inherit everything and cover your tracks. Well, those tracks are about to be uncovered." Ethan froze. His eyes darted to Lily, then back to me. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. He knew I was right. And now I had the proof. I found the documents, I said, pulling out the stack I had discovered the night before. "You thought you could get away with it, didn't you? You believed you could take out loans against the family estate, all while your father was sick, while we were fighting for his life. You thought you could inherit it all and cover your mess with the money you were stealing, but you didn't count on me seeing through it." The realization hit Ethan hard. The color drained from his face, and I could see the weight of his actions crashing down on him. He had been so sure, so arrogant that everything would work out in his favor. But now he was caught. "I'm not pressing charges," I said, my voice cold. "Not yet. But make no mistake, this is far from over. I'm letting you stew in it for now, Ethan. You'll watch as everything you thought you controlled slips right through your fingers, and when you finally realize you've lost it all, you'll understand what it feels like to be truly powerless." The room was deathly silent now. There was no denying it. Ethan had been caught, and there was no way out for him. He had stolen from his own family, and now he would pay the price. Lily tried to say something, but I cut her off with a single look. You're just as complicit as he is. You knew. Didn't you, Lily? You saw the signs, and you chose to turn a blind eye. You stood by while he used your family's name and wealth to get what he wanted. Well, now you're going to see what happens when people like you underestimate me. Ethan, now visibly shaken, turned to me with a look of desperation. Margaret, you don't understand. I needed the money. I thought I could fix it. I was going to pay it back. You should have thought of that before you started stealing, I replied, my voice sharp. You thought I wouldn't notice? But I did. I always did. I stood up slowly, letting the tension in the room settle before I added, You can all pretend this isn't happening. You can try to talk your way out of it. But the truth is, everything you thought was yours is now mine, and I won't let you ruin it. With that, I turned and walked out, leaving them to grapple with the mess they had created. As I closed the door behind me, I knew one thing for sure: this was just the beginning. The family was going to have to face the consequences of their actions, and I was going to make sure they did. The days following my confrontation with Ethan and Lily were strangely quiet. I had anticipated their reaction, of course. They would be shocked, angry, and desperate. What I didn't expect was how quickly their confidence turned to panic, how rapidly they scrambled to regain what they thought was rightfully theirs. The morning after the family meeting, the phone call started. Ethan called first, his voice tight with disbelief. Mom, what's going on? Why can't I access the accounts? This isn't funny, he demanded, trying to keep his cool, but there was an edge of panic creeping into his words. I didn't answer. I wasn't interested in his excuses or his attempts to manipulate me with guilt. Next came Lily, her voice sugary sweet, trying to disguise the undercurrent of frustration. Margaret, I'm sure this is all just a misunderstanding. We just need to talk. There must be some mistake. I let her voicemail fill up. The more they called, the less I felt inclined to answer. They had thought they could strip everything from me, and now they were learning the hard way that actions have consequences. By the afternoon, Ethan's messages became more frantic. Mom, this is serious. I don't understand what you're doing. You can't just take everything. We were supposed to be a team. I could almost picture him pacing back and forth, the desperation in his eyes as he tried to cling to the last remnants of his plan. But there was no team anymore. It was just me, Margaret Callahan, standing strong in the legacy I had helped build, and he wasn't a part of it anymore. I didn't pick up the phone. I didn't respond to their messages. They had no idea what was coming, but I was in no mood to explain myself. They had taken advantage of my silence for too long. Now it was time for them to face the reality of their greed. It wasn't just about money. It wasn't just about property. It was about respect. And I wasn't going to give it to them, not after everything they had done. Then on the fourth day, I received a message from Sophia, Ethan, and Lily's daughter. Her message was short, but it was the first one that didn't come with an agenda. Grandma, I don't know what's going on, but I want you to know I understand. I know what's happening, and I want to talk to you. Sophia had always been different from her parents. She had always been the one who looked me in the eye, who truly listened when I spoke. She had never been swept up in the power games Ethan and Lily played. It wasn't lost on me that of all the people in this family, she was the only one who seemed to see the truth of what had transpired. I called her back that evening. Sophia, I said, when she picked up my voice, softer than it had been with anyone else in the family, I'm glad you reached out. I know this must be difficult for you. She paused for a moment, and when she spoke, her voice cracked slightly. I don't want any of this, Grandma. I never wanted to see you hurt like this. I don't know how to fix it, but I want to help. Her sincerity was clear, and for the first time in days, I felt something other than anger. I felt understood. I paused before responding. This wasn't a decision I had made lightly. I had every right to hold on to everything that was mine, but something in me shifted. Sophia wasn't like the rest of them. She wasn't driven by greed, and for all her parents' faults, I could see that she still had a heart. "I'm going to transfer part of the estate to you, Sophia," I said. There was no hesitation in my voice. "I don't want you caught up in all of this. You've shown me more kindness than anyone else in this family has in years. And I want to make sure that when all this is over, you have something that's truly yours. Something you earned, not something that's been taken from someone else." She was silent for a moment, the weight of my words sinking in. Then with a soft, "Thank you," she began to cry. I could hear the relief in her voice. It wasn't about money for her. It was about the fact that someone finally saw her for who she was. Someone who hadn't played the game the others had. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," Sophia continued. "I want to learn from you, Grandma. I want to be strong like you are. I don't want to be like them." She was crying now, but there was gratitude in her voice, not resentment. "I'll make sure I live up to this." "I know you will, sweetheart," I replied softly. "I know you'll do better. I'll transfer the property and the accounts to you soon. But promise me something, Sophia. Don't ever let anyone make you feel small, not for your kindness, not for your strength. You are worth so much more than they'll ever see." Sophia promised me, and for the first time in days, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had done something right. I had given her something that could not be taken away by greed or manipulation. It was a piece of the legacy William and I had built, together a part of the family that no one else could touch. In the days that followed, things didn't get any easier with Ethan and Lily. They continued their attempts to manipulate the situation to regain the wealth they thought was theirs. But I could see the cracks forming. They weren't as untouchable as they once thought. They were floundering, desperate to keep their grip on something that was slipping away. But I had made my choice. I had done what was right, not just for me, but for Sophia too. She was the only one in this entire family who deserved something real, something lasting. And that, I realized, was enough for me. The family would have to figure out the rest. But as for me, I had already reclaimed my dignity, my power, and I was at peace with that. In the days that followed, I realized I wasn't just sitting on a pile of paperwork waiting for things to settle. No, I was sitting on something much more valuable, my peace of mind. The chaos the family had caused, the manipulation, the disregard for everything William and I had worked for it, was all over now, but for me the real work had just begun. I wasn't about to let them tear apart the life I had fought so hard to build. I wasn't going to let their selfishness define the rest of my life. I shifted my focus, as I had done so many times before, but this time it wasn't about survival. It was about rebuilding. I knew the importance of preserving the legacy William and I had left behind, and for the first time in years I was going to do something for myself, not just for the family, not just for anyone else, but for me. The first thing I did was transfer ownership of the smaller house on the outskirts of town to Sophia. It wasn't much, but it was a place I knew would mean something to her. It was a cozy little home, the kind William had always dreamed of having a place where we could spend quiet weekends away from the hustle of the city. It wasn't extravagant, but it was ours, and it was mine to give away. I wanted Sophia to have something that couldn't be taken from her, something she could truly call her own. The rest of the family had used me as a stepping stone, but Sophia was different. She had shown me real compassion, real kindness, and I couldn't ignore that. When I told her the news, her voice cracked with emotion. "Grandma, I don't know how to thank you," she said, the weight of the gesture settling in. "I never expected this. You've given me more than I could ever ask for." "You've earned it, Sophia," I replied softly, my voice steady. "You've always been the one who saw the truth. I'm just making sure you have what you deserve. You don't have to fight for approval anymore. You're already enough." That evening I began to shift my focus again. I had always believed in helping others, especially women who had been through the same things I had. Losing a spouse, losing a partner. It wasn't just about the emotional toll, it was about the practical side, the financial side. Many women like me found themselves cast aside left to navigate a world that didn't always have room for us. But I was going to change that. I started planning a nonprofit. I would call it the Margaret Callahan Second Chance Fund. Its mission would be simple: to support widowed women over 60 who had been left out of financial decisions or struggled to reclaim their lives after losing a spouse. I knew what it felt like to be dismissed, to be pushed aside. I knew what it felt like to fight alone. But I wasn't fighting alone anymore. I had myself, I had Sophia, and now I was going to help others like me, women who were ready to rebuild, to take control, to create their own legacies. The foundation was more than just a cause. It was a way to give back, to share the lessons I had learned the hard way. I wanted to show other women that they weren't invisible, that they didn't have to sit quietly in the background. They had voices, they had power, and I would make sure they knew how to use it. Meanwhile, Ethan and Lily continued to struggle. I had never wanted to see them fail, but they had made their choices, and now they were dealing with the consequences. Ethan's business account had been frozen the moment I activated the estate plan. All the money he had been siphoning off, using William's business credit line to cover up his debts, was now locked away. He couldn't access it, and he couldn't hide from it. Lily's credit cards were declined when she tried to make a purchase. For years, she had used money as a way to manipulate people, thinking it gave her power. But now she was facing a harsh reality. Money didn't buy control, it didn't buy loyalty, and it sure didn't buy respect. I had no sympathy for them. They had shown me nothing but disrespect, tried to tear apart everything I had built, and they had pushed me too far. I wasn't going to let them manipulate me again. The game was over, and they didn't even realize it yet. Every time they reached out to me, Ethan asking if I could release the funds, Lily making polite suggestions about how we could work things out, I ignored them. I wasn't their punching bag anymore. I wasn't going to bend or break under their pressure. Their struggles were the result of their own actions, their own greed. They hadn't thought about the long-term consequences when they started to push me aside, when they started to use William's death as a chance to take control. They hadn't thought that one day they might find themselves standing on the outside looking in. I knew they would try to regroup, try to find a way back in, but they were out of options, and I wasn't about to give them another chance to tear me down. The decisions I made, transferring the house to Sophia, starting the nonprofit holding firm in the face of their manipulation, were all part of a larger plan. A plan to rebuild not just my life, but my sense of self-worth. I had learned something valuable in the process. Strength isn't about pushing people around or taking what isn't yours. It's about standing tall in the face of adversity, no matter how hard life gets. It's about taking control, reclaiming your life, and never looking back. For the first time in a long while, I felt at peace. I had found my footing, rebuilt my life, and now I was going to help other women do the same. The legacy I had built with William wasn't going to be torn apart by greed or manipulation. I was going to protect it, and I was going to make sure the future I left behind was one built on respect, love, and integrity. And if Ethan and Lily wanted to challenge that, well, they were welcome to try. But they would find that this time I wasn't backing down. A week after everything had settled, I received an invitation to a family gathering at Ethan's house. They had attempted to play it off like nothing had happened, pretending as though the storm we'd weathered was some trivial glitch in our family dynamic. But I knew better. They thought they could push me aside, thought they could reclaim what they believed was theirs. But I wasn't going to let them continue that charade. I walked into Ethan's house, the same place where I had been dismissed and laughed at. The atmosphere was thick with forced smiles and awkward glances. Ethan was behind the grill, pretending to be the provider, just like he always had. Lily was nearby, her eyes sharp and calculating, always looking for an angle. Trevor stood by the fence, his eyes darting between me and the ground, unsure of what to do. But this time it was different. I wasn't the same woman who had walked out weeks ago. I wasn't going to shrink back to make them feel comfortable. Without a word, I set a folder on the picnic table. It was the same folder I had brought that day, filled with the documents that now proved I had everything under control. I looked around the table at my family, their faces a mixture of confusion and uncertainty, and I finally spoke. "I'm done playing small," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I built this family, this legacy, and I will no longer shrink for your comfort. You all thought you could take what was mine, but I won't let that happen. Everything you thought was yours is now in my hands, and it will stay there." There was a heavy silence as my words hung in the air. Ethan opened his mouth to respond, but I cut him off. "You don't get to take from me anymore," I continued. "I'm not here for your approval, not anymore. I'm rebuilding on my own terms." I turned and walked out, leaving the family to sit in the aftermath of their own choices. As I stepped into the yard, the air felt lighter. I had done what needed to be done, not out of revenge, but out of the deep need to protect what William and I had created. I had reclaimed my power, my dignity, and my future. For the first time in years, I wasn't seeking anyone's approval. I was finally free to live life on my own terms, and that was a feeling I would never let go. The story of Margaret Callahan is more than just a tale of inheritance and family drama. It's a powerful reminder of the importance of standing up for yourself, no matter how hard the world tries to push you down. We live in a society that often marginalizes people, especially women, when they reach a certain age or when they're seen as no longer useful in the eyes of others. Margaret's journey challenges this notion. She teaches us that our value is not determined by others' perceptions, but by our own strength, resilience, and the legacies we choose to build. Margaret didn't just fight for her inheritance. She fought for her dignity, her right to exist as more than a background figure in her family's life. How many of us can relate to feeling overlooked or undervalued? How many times have we silently let others take what rightfully belongs to us because we feared confrontation or wanted to keep the peace? But Margaret's story shows us that peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from reclaiming your voice and your space in this world. She didn't take revenge. She simply demanded respect. And that's a lesson we all need to learn. We must stop letting others dictate our worth. It's time to rise to reclaim what's ours and to live life unapologetically on our own terms. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below, share your own experiences of reclaiming your power, and if you found this inspiring, don't forget to watch more videos like this. Trust me, you won't want to miss them. Let's keep empowering each other.